Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are in Australia. It's time to take a look at how to work out what to write. It's a problem that comes up so often, but people ask me, well, how do you know what to write about? Can you write about anything? Can you write about nothing? Can you write about something from your experience? Well, I'm here to tell you today there's a bit of a formula to it, as there is in everything to do with digital marketing. So I'm going to take you through that. I'm Dante St. James. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Let's share that screen and let's get running. First of all, a look at what we're doing today. We're going to look at where all the content creators are now. We are all content creators now, not just me, not just the famous people, but you as well. We'll look at 3 C's: the context, the concept, and the content. That will make a lot more sense as we move into this class. And I'm going to take a look at how I'm doing it. Before we get underway, though, just to let you know, this is live on Zoom, so if you've got questions for the many of you who have shown up live today, please pop them in the Q&A or the chat window. I've got it on my monitor over there, so I can keep an eye on that coming through. Secondly, this is being recorded and will be put on YouTube a little bit later this week, so potentially in the next 24 hours. And I'll also be sharing it on my own YouTube channel. So you just either look for Business Station on YouTube or my name, Dante St. James, and you'll be able to find that material there. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Digital Solutions Program, thanks to the Australian government and their Australian Small Business Advisory Services. A bit about me: I've become in recent years, so since 2018, became a Meta certified lead trainer. Just 5 of us in Australia now, and I'm really happy with that role. It's really helped me to meet a whole lot of small businesses all over Australia that I've really enjoyed doing. I'm also part of, obviously, Business Station, bringing you webinars and advisory support from the Digital Solutions Program, and in the Darwin region for Workforce Australia's self-employment services. I also work with the Australian government's Be Connected Ever Australian online program and Google's Digital Springboard program as well. So there's a lot of stuff I do, a lot of badges I collect, but what's most important is what you're going to learn today. And I want to start off with it that yes, you're a content creator now. You might have thought that you were someone who was just selling your services, selling your products, but now you're creating content as well. This is what's happened to all of us in recent years. We've gone from being business owners or sole traders to now being content creators. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the difference between a couple of content creators. This guy, Mr. Beast, is the biggest online personality in the world with 126 million followers on YouTube and 68.8 million followers on TikTok. He's the biggest person on both of those platforms, both TikTok and YouTube at the same time. He is the world's most followed online star, lives in an absolute mansion of a compound at Greenville, North Carolina in the United States. He is definitely what I would call a content creator. But so is this lady. Her name's Jeanette, and she's from Brisbane here in Queensland in the sort of mid-eastern suburbs, around about the Carina-Carindale kind of area. Has 2 followers on her Facebook business page and 2,980 followers on her LinkedIn account. She's a chartered accountant and a business coach. I love working with her. She's a fantastic person, and she's just as much a content creator as Mr. Beast or any of those other, big YouTube and TikTok personalities are. So it doesn't mean that you're not a content creator just because you don't have the following that other people do. In fact, following has nothing to do with it. What counts is whether those people who do follow you are becoming your clients or are taking advantage of your services. They both have to work out what to put online. Doesn't matter who they are. Mr. Beast has 6 people that works for him that just work on his YouTube thumbnails. He is a machine. He makes tens of millions of dollars every year and has a really large team to help him to do that. He does it through stunts and all sorts of things. Jeanette, what she does is takes what she does and makes it as easily accessible for everyone as she possibly can. So if you want to just follow Jeanette, she's on LinkedIn especially, but also on Facebook through her company Biz Connections in Brisbane. She's a great person. I'm proud to be working with her as a coach at the moment, and I think that she's someone who really has a lot more to offer and will have a lot more to offer in the future as well. So usually when we're talking about content creating, we're talking about the writing. We might be talking about audio in the form of podcasts or those Twitter groups and spaces, or video. Video is the other place it seems to be taking a board. But all of these things must start with writing. Every single one of them starts with some kind of writing. So when we're talking about writing, we talk about then, well, what are we writing about? And that's the big question that comes up all the time. It's one thing to say, yes, I need to write more content, but what do you write about? So the context then is asking, what do you want to achieve, you as the business owner? Secondly, who do you want to achieve it with? Who's your target? Who's your customer? Who's the ideal person that your message is going to be for? And third, asking, where is that person at in their journey towards you? Let's break that down a bit, because those concepts are very marketing heavy, and I don't expect you to understand those straight off. It took me years. So what do you want to achieve? So this is where you go, I want to either entertain people, in terms of, providing a distraction for them, some way to keep them engaged with what I'm doing, in some way to present something which is yes, just entertaining to them, I guess. You really just want to be there to make sure that they can get the best possible time out of watching your stuff. Or it could be about persuasion. Are you there to persuade people to buy something, to consider something, to move into some a deeper relationship with you, perhaps as a potential client? You can also be there to inform people. So you may be a news service, industry news, local news. It could be whatever you're doing. You may be there to be the expert in your industry. So therefore you would share a lot of industry news and new knowledge, news that comes from your particular area. Although you could be the educate, which is your job, is to make sure that people understand as much as they can possibly understand without having to necessarily become you and take on the role that you have in your life. So when you look at all those, you go, well, that's a fair bit of content just in there, just to make a decision whether I'm going to entertain, persuade, inform, or educate. Usually what I go down the path of as a consultant and as a trainer is to go down the educate and inform path. Persuading, I find, is probably more easily done by me, by not necessarily asking for the sale, but just giving people so much education that they feel like, wow, I'm either overwhelmed and need someone to help me with it, or they go, wow, you know a lot, I'd like to work with you, that kind of thing. Entertaining goes in really areas where, for instance, I've got a friend who I'm highlighting on LinkedIn in a couple of days' time, and she is an MC and hosts events and workshops and that. She's bigger, her personality is big as Ben-Hur. She's just so big in her presentation. She's amazing. And she will be much more in the entertain area. She's got material that is very entertaining. Mine's very educational, full of information, not particularly entertaining until I get a few dad jokes going, maybe. But the persuasion side doesn't sit right with me. So that might be where you are stronger. Say, for instance, if you're selling products rather than services, the persuade angle might be a bit more fun for you, rather than sitting there and just continually educating people about skincare and the need to be able to wear SPF to be able to save your skin from aging prematurely, or whatever it happens to be that you're working with. Secondly, then we go, what do you want to achieve? Who do you want to achieve it with? This is where you understand, you probably heard the term client avatar, or you've heard maybe your ideal client, that kind of thing. This is where you figure out where they are. And in my case, the majority of my clients are within Australia. The majority of them tend to be within Northern Australia, so Northern Territory, Northwest WA, North Queensland. But I also have quite a large amount of people I work with in Perth and Brisbane as well. So it's not like location is limited to a certain place. But what you might find is, if you only have, say, 10% of all your clients outside of your local area, then your location probably should be focused on your local area, unless you're looking to expand out of your area. They've got the gender. Who are you primarily working with? I'm not ashamed to say I primarily work with women. Yes, some men. It's probably about 80% women to 20% men. So I find that my material that I put out there and that I write about has a consideration in it that it's probably going to land in front of a woman, and she's probably going to not really react well to that high impact, high sales, really hardcore, aggressive alpha male pointing at the camera thing that those guys do. Kind of, even I'm turned off by it, but she probably won't respond well to that. So to do something that's a little bit mindful of the kind of people that I work with and want to work with. Then we look at the age too. There's a very different language, a very different approach when it comes to people of different ages. People who are further along the line are willing to take a bit of time to read longer posts on social media, or perhaps even a blog on their website. People who are younger want to be tantalized. They've got very short attention span for things on social media that aren't immediate immediately of interest to them. They've got a very long attention span for things they love and things they're interested in. They'll sit there for 14 hours and play a game online. But when it comes to learning new things, the attention span is quite short, and we need to find ways of reaching them. And then, of course, the interests. You're not going to try and sell a pair of stockings to a guy, or if you are, that guy's probably already knows what he's looking for. What we're talking about is being appropriate to who we're trying to reach and knowing what their interests are. If someone has no interest in being a small business owner, they've probably got no interest in having a small business coach either. So if we try to narrow down who we're going to send these things to, then we've got a much better idea of it. So far we've looked at what do you want to achieve in terms of whether you want to entertain, persuade, inform, or educate someone. Then we've got what do you want to achieve it with? So who are the people you want to achieve it with? Have an idea of who your audience is. Then finally, where is that person at in the journey towards you? Let me explain what these mean. Awareness means that nobody's ever heard of you. You're making them aware of you for the very first time. So it might be video. It might be some shocking piece of copy that you're putting up into a post. It could be that you've got an amazing video to show them, which is going to get their attention for the first time to see who it is you are, what you do, and why they should care about it. These people are probably, in my experience, the easiest people to get attention from, but not necessarily to sell something from. People at the awareness stage of the customer journey are at the very beginning. Trying to hit them up with a sales spiel probably won't work right now because they're not really looking for what it is you do, but they might be down the track. So trying to sell them something now is misplaced, but we need to let them know we do sell something. Which brings us then to the considerations part of the journey. Consideration is where they're already looking for what you're doing, but they really want to make sure that they're picking the right one. They're shopping around, they're comparing prices, comparing features and benefits. They're at a stage where giving them a bit more education about your product, a little bit more information about what it is and what its advantages are and why you are someone who they should buy that from rather than someone else. That can be really helpful at this point. You're not still giving the hard sale, get this, get that, get it for this much off, get this discount, all those things. You don't want to go down that path. Not yet. What you're doing is giving them a reason to want to consider you at the top of their list. Next up is the purchase bit, and you can go wild with your discounts, with your calls to action, all that kind of thing, if they're in that position. And then after the purchase, we've got what we call retention. This is basically the part where we invite people who've bought from you before or have worked with you before to work with you again or to buy from you again. These are what we call loyalty customers, people who will come back again and again and again. And we want to encourage them to do that and give them reasons to do it. Sometimes it's a 5% discount when they get a special code when they've already shopped with you, or it might be something where you send them out an email, excuse me, that has that code on it. In that retention stage, they generally are in a pretty happy place with you. They've had a good experience. They like the product or service they got from you. And now they're ready to go to that next stage, which we call advocacy, which is when somebody is looking to, they'll recommend you. They'll tell other people. That's word of mouth. This is where people will give you everything from a review or a recommendation right through to telling their friends directly, you need to buy this from her. She's amazing and so is her products. So that's the different stages of the journey. So what we're going to do, just to recap, we need to write from the point of view of knowing what we want to get out of this piece of writing we're going to do. We're going to have a think of who is the person we're writing it for. And finally, what stage of the customer journey are they at? Whether it's at that area where they've never heard of you, whether they're considering you, whether they've bought from you already, whether they're a bit of a raving fan, we want to be able to service them as well. So now we've got a bit of an idea of the context. Now we move on to the actual concept of what you're writing about. And this is all about you. So we've written about who your customer is that you're writing for. Now we're working out who you are. So the concept of who you are is based on who you are, what you do, and why should your customer or potential customer care about that. So again, who you are, what you do, and why should someone care? So who are you? Easy question to ask. Sometimes not an easy question to answer. who you are comes down to what your values are. Your values are those things that which you as a person or you as a business don't change from day to day. It's always the same. So for instance, on a day where you wake up in a bad mood, there's some of your values may drop off because you don't live your best life on those days. But there's some days when you wake up in the best possible mood and you still don't really live up to the expectations of what you think your values should be. So values usually are something which you can show up with no matter what mood you're in, no matter how bad a day you're having. Those things are always there. So for instance, when I was working out mine, I came to a list of 19 that I had to try and reduce dramatically. You really only need 3 or 4. Oh, excuse me. I'm allergic to something this afternoon. Maybe I ate something at lunch. The values then I got down to 4 and then have grown to 5. I really need to get those down to 3 again. The reason why you don't want too many of them is because the more you've got, the more you have to live up to. So it's a little bit hard to do that on your bad days. But let's just say I put down one of my values as being reliable. I know for the life of me that I am not even reliable on my best days. I have a lot of distractions and a lot of moving parts are going on my day. So reliability is not always my strong suit. And so me trying to highlight that as a value, that's more of an aspiration. That's something I'd like to be, but it's not necessarily something I am. The guys from Business Station will tell you, sometimes they have to chase me to start these webinars because I've completely got focused on something else. And they're like, hey, you need to be in a webinar. Oh no, I've got to get in there. So that reliability thing dropped off mine. And my values are to be honest, authentic, vulnerable, effective, and approachable. So I might be kind of cutting those down and trying to glue a couple of those together a bit, but that's generally what I think I can do every day. I can be that person pretty much every day of the week, no matter where I am and who I am. Your voice then is the tone you speak in. So are you someone who is speaking from a very professional point of view, from a compassionate point of view? Are words very important to you? So for instance, if you're using references to gender, that you will be gender neutral or inclusive of all gender variations and identifications. If that's important to you, it's probably part of your values, then that reflects in your voice, in the kind of words you use. You'll also find that your voice is a bit of a tone that people will understand as being either casual. You could start with being casual, so someone who speaks very in very simple language, or it could be someone who speaks in a much more never always, I guess, in terms of being a not casual. I'm talking about, get it right. What's the word? Look at professional. That word was on the tip of my tongue. Oh, tell you, I'm having one of those days today. So if you're either casual in your speech, very professional in your speech, or you could be quite humorous in your speech. Your voice will either be, very professional, very casual, very funny, quite witty. I like to put my communications to be quite witty, and it's unfortunate because I'd love to be able to get AI to write all my stuff, but unfortunately, AI doesn't always explain. Whether it doesn't always explain wit very well. It doesn't show humor particularly well. Also, who are you in terms of your availability? So if you put up a post on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, how available are you to interact with people on that post? That's really important for you to understand, because you shouldn't ask a question of someone in those if you're not going to be around to be able to answer it. I'm not talking about being a slave to social media. Nobody wants that. Even I don't want that. But it's one of those things where you've got to make sure that if you're going to put questions out there and ask people to respond, that you are there to respond back to them. Because if they put a message on there and you don't get back to them until 3 months later, your values are probably going to be called into question. And then there's also the channels you're going to use. Which channels do you promote yourself through? For me, it's LinkedIn, a little bit of Facebook, Twitter, also through Instagram to a smaller extent. They're my primary channels. I've also got a podcast and a YouTube channel that are very important to me. But what is your channels? What do you prefer to operate through? Are you an Instagram person? Maybe you're on Pinterest. Pinterest is a fantastic tool to be using to reach people who are very likely to buy things, especially products, and are really, really keen on clicking through the links to see more about certain products. So if they see a pin on a board, they go, oh, that looks amazing. They're very likely to click on a link to go and see it on your website. There are actually some talk I've heard lately that Pinterest is actually by far the most effective way to get people to get to your website from a social media platform. So you choose your channels, but ultimately everything has to match what your values are. I've got a whole lot of information about that in my mini course at dantestjames.com, which is all about your personal brand. Now, even if it's not a personal brand you're running and you're running a brand for things you're selling, some products, it's worth doing just to get the values exercise out of the way, because it really makes you think, who really am I? Who do I live at? Who do I turn up as and show up as every day? And that sort of counts for product brands as well, not just for people brands. So we have worked at who you are. What do you do? How do you explain what do you do? And a really simple way to do that is through the old elevator pitch, where you say, you know how? Well, I solve this by. So to be like, you know how a lot of women are allergic to chemical makeups that cause them to have breakouts and cause them to have a lot of skin problems they didn't have before. Well, I solve this by selling a mineral-based makeup, which doesn't have any sort of complex chemicals in it, so it's able to better react with skin and not cause major rashes, hives, and allergic reactions like I seem to be having in my nostrils right now from something I ate at lunch. So this is a very simple exercise. Just ask yourself, well, you know how this problem occurs. How do I solve it? So it's just a classic elevator pitch, but it really helps you to nail down the kind of voice you're going to be writing with. That's why we're going through these pre-bits before I take you into these amazing tools that will help you write better, because you need to know what to put into those tools. You need to know who it is you are, so you can then know how to explain that to the general public. And now, why should they care? Now, they will care because you've explained back to them what their problem is. You know how I just started with that you know how thing, and then I went, I solve this by? You, by saying you know how, are expressing empathy to someone. And nothing connects people like empathy, like knowing that someone knows that you get it. Even the words, I get it, tend to be such a strong empathetic statement. Someone walks in the shop and you've got a shop front, and they walk in, they've got two kids who are really screaming and all that, and this mum's looking hot and bothered, and you go, oh, I get it, I've got kids too, let me get you a glass of water, take a seat. Immediately that person has developed an empathetic connection with you. And when we develop an empathetic connection with people, we want to work with them a bit more. We want to have a conversation with them. We might still walk out of that shop not buying anything, but damn, we're going to tell someone about the amazing experience we had. If someone was like, she totally understood where I was coming from, she totally got what I was feeling at the time, I'm so glad I needed that glass of water so badly. So this is where you go with some sort of empathizing with where they're coming from, how they feel about it, even understanding what they're feeling and going, oh, it's frustrating, isn't it? How you cannot seem to find a glass of water when you really need one. Well, here you go, I'll get one for you. How you empathize then is a reflection on how someone feels like you get them. And that's why they should care about you. They'll care about what you have to do because you've shown you care about what their problem is that you're helping to solve. It's not rocket science. It's really obvious stuff, isn't it? So this is a bit of a matrix, if you like, which shows you a bit about how you may set up your plan for writing. So I've stated on a Monday, I'm going to do an educate style post. Tuesday, it's going to be a persuading kind of post. Wednesday, an information post. And then we go on Monday, we're looking at education. We're looking at the person's going to be in the consideration stage. The values that I'm going to put. So in the case of this person, I've said their values are being helpful, empowering, sustainable. And that's their three main ones they're going to go with. So the problem that the customer is, that they're going to address in a social media post on Monday, is the customer needs new clothes. So what you're doing is being helpful. You're in that stage where the person's shopping around. So they're in the consideration stage, and you're going to educate them on how to choose better clothes for their size, for their shape, for their color palette, whatever it happens to be. But by doing this, you're showing that you are helpful. You're showing that you're reflecting the stage that that customer is going to be in. And you're showing that this educate part is very much about those different kinds of posts you can do. I've got a little bit of a different way I do it, because I'm probably a little bit further on with this content creation thing than most people. And I will show you about that a little bit later on and how that all works. But in this first instance, the educate, the consideration, the helpful and need new clothes might be in such a state where you go, shopping for clothes can be just a little bit intense. Sometimes you don't know where to start and where to finish. So when you're looking for new clothes, we suggest you do this. Number one, go to the websites of all the shops in the local shopping center that you're going to visit and give yourself a plan of attack. Which ones are you going to visit in which order? This way you'll be saving a lot of time, and you'll only be looking at the things that you know, the shops that you know have something that you like. That to me is a really helpful thing to help someone who's shopping for new clothes, especially if they need to shop for a particular event. The last thing you need to do is spend hours walking around a Westfield shopping town looking for some kind of new dress for an event you have to go to that you don't necessarily want to go to, and you do not have hours and hours to waste on this thing. You need to get in there and get out. That to me, if I was looking for a brand new formal dress for a big event, I would find that very, very helpful. Tuesday with the persuading, we're looking at the stage where someone's looking to purchase something. So we're saying that the value that we're going to put in there is that we're going to be very empowering. The problem is that the client feels dowdy in the clothes they've got. So you can even start with it. We get it. You feel really dowdy and down with the clothes you've got. Well, you know you have the power to choose anything you like, and especially with changing your entire style. Let's encourage you first by saying, number one, we've got the biggest choice in town. Number two, we've got so many sizes in all of our things, right up to size 24. So you'll definitely find something in your size. See, you're empowering someone. And then the persuasion could be, right now we've got 20% off everything in stock. So come and have a visit. So that way you're going in with each time you're writing with the, so your plan here really is to stop you from being confused about what to write on any given day of the week. I've got a similar layout to this. I'll show it to you shortly, where I know what I'm writing every single day for the rest of this year. I haven't written it yet, but I know what I have to write. So what I've taken out is that I don't have to think about the goal or the stage or the values or the problems. It's all laid out for me. I just follow that along there and go, okay, I need to write something which is educational. They're in the stage of consideration. I want to reflect the value of being helpful. And here's the problem I want to solve. So I've got all that laid out first so that when I go to write it, bang, 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 there it gets written. I don't have to spend so much time. This is actually the problem that most people have with writing, is they try to figure out what they need to write about, figure out the voice they're going to write it in, figure out the stage they're writing it for, what the problem is they're going to solve, all in terms of like getting all that together and then also at the same time having to write it. It's no way to do it. Break it up into smaller pieces. Don't even have to do all the planning in once. If you just go down for the next month and just saying, okay, let's spread out the goals that I want to do. Let's spread out the stages on the next day. Then for the next day, I'll figure out like what the values are that I want to express in there before you finally decide on the topic that you're going to talk about. So when you get to the week leading up to when you're going to post these things, all you have to do is write the post. You've got the instructions all right there in front of you. You know what you're writing for, so you don't have to think about that. It makes a massive difference. Take it from me, I do this all the time. It's made life so much easier. It means I can post every single day without any effort at all because I have my plan already in place. And it's such an important way to save money. So the content itself, this is a fun part. We get to look at some tools. I like going to tools and having a look. Some of these you might be familiar with. The first one is called answerthepublic.com. It used to be, had a photo of a very angry man on the front of it, but now Neil Patel has bought it and sort of brought it into his whole area. Now you get 3 of these available for each day as long as you're a member. So that's a free version. They get 3 inquiries. What I'm going to do is we're going to go and have a look at answerthepublic.com. And I'll show you how it works. So let's go to Answer the Public, move you out of the way, Zoom thing, and photo of me. I don't need to see myself. Not quite that narcissistic. So here we are at the website. I've logged in with my login. You don't have to have a login to start with, but if you want to get 3 a day, you need to log in. What I first do is type in what I'm going to talk about. So let's just saying plus-sized fashion for women. Then I'm going to go for searches in Australia. So what this does, basically, it's going and looking at Google's data and saying, what are people searching for in terms of these topics? So what are the questions that people are asking on search engines with regards to plus size fashion for women? So I'll go search, and it's going to go looking, and form me a bunch of answers. So the first thing it's going to present us for, it's going to give us, still I'm trying to come up with it. So let me just, it's starting to come through. So we've got 36 questions based upon plus size fashion for women. So we, in this, it shows us what things are highly searched, what are average search, and what are lowest search in terms of the numbers. So in here, you start to see the numbers. So the darker there, plus size clothing for women and summer is very highly searched for. What to wear for plus size ladies, a little less searched for. Women's outfits plus size is less searched for again. So it gives you a whole bunch of things. So you can say, if you've got plus size fashion for women, here's where you find all this. You would go, okay, most popular plus size women clothing, women's clothes for plus size, what to wear for plus size ladies. So you're getting all these topics. This women in summer thing, because it's summer right now, so it definitely would get that. The benefits, high fashion for plus size clothing for women in summer, again, is fitting in. Women's outfits. So we got questions. These are the questions. So what plus size clothing is available for women in summer would probably be the format of that question. The next thing we look at then is prepositions. So prepositions then are, what the context of what people are searching for. So again, we get those same results. So plus size dresses for ladies in India is really well searched for. Plus size clothes for ladies over 60 is searched for. So this is looking a bit more broad away from just the questions that are being asked. This is adding some extra context to it. This is India, plus size lady, what to wear, plus size fashion near me is the context of looking for outlets that do this near you. You can then go on and continue with comparisons. So it's like plus size clothing for women and summer, plus size clothing for what to wear for plus size ladies. So this is where they're comparing it with something else. So the question might be something and women's clothing for plus size. So it's part of a bigger question that has multiple parts to it. Ultimately, you don't really need to know what the comparisons, prepositions, and all that sort of thing are. What you're really looking for is probably this lang. This is the great one, the alphabetical order. So it's got plus size dresses for older ladies Australia, plus size women's dresses for a wedding. So these are all the topics that you can be coming through with. So you just fill all these out. Look, you've got what, 195 there. 195 different things. You might want to take the India one unless you're selling to India. But for Las Vegas, you can probably change that. What's Australia's Las Vegas? The Gold Coast, I guess. Plus size clothing for a long torso. You can write about all these different topics by getting them from here. I generate all those topics here, and you're able to write about almost anything. You'll never run out of content in there. And that is just based on the word plus size fashion for women. I could put in anything there. I could put in any other topic. We could say, let's just say services for women's health. And then again, it will give us a bunch of different results for services around women's health. So we just go down there, it's going to generate them. So it's saying we've got 47 questions are asked about women's health. What does women's health include? What is covered under women's health? Services for women's health. What takes women's health who takes women's health program? Why choose women's health? Why is women's health so important? These are all topics. If I go right down the bottom again to my big list, here we go. Here's all my alphabetical orders. Women's services in Brisbane, services for women's health, services for working parents. So you've got some great outlines there for whatever the topic is you want to write about and whatever your business happens to do in terms of services and in services and in products that you sell as well. So now we've got an idea of that. We understand how to use Answer the Public. And it's again, answerthepublic.com. It's a pretty classic one to go for. It's just been renovated recently with the new ownership. This one is the HubSpot.com blog topic generator. This could be just as easily be a social media post topic generator as well. Now you get a few of them straight up for free, and of course you have to pay if you want to get more, but or you got to join or something like that. We're just going to do the free version for now. So if we go to the blog ideas generator, and I'm going to enter a noun. So let's try a different topic this time. Let's try professional organizer. So professional organizer, I'm going to add that. What it's going to do, I can add more in there. I can go decluttering, professional cleaner. I'll probably do this for now. You got 5 different nouns you can compare, and what it's going to do is give you blog ideas or ideas about that. So professional cleaner, expectations versus reality. Will professional cleaners ever rule the world? Well, I don't know what that's got to do. I wouldn't really do that one. The next big thing in professional organizers, maybe professional organizers explain in fewer than 140 characters. This week's top stories about professional organizers. decluttering expectations versus reality. So these are 5 different ideas I'll give you. They can unlock another 250 more, but they want to send them to you via email. So you just put in your details there and I'll send you the email, and then they'll basically spam you with why you should be using HubSpot as your customer relationship management system. But it's just a great place to start, a really good place to get at least a beginning with all of what this is. So what you're going to write with. So I think that's probably a really easy one to start with. It doesn't give you a lot to work with. It just gives you a little bit to work with, but that's good as well. So once we move on from our blog ideas generator, there's a tool that everybody's talking about right now. I'm doing a much more thorough investigation of this one on Friday. So if there's one particular webinar of mine not to miss, it's on Friday. Go and check it out, businessstation.com.au, because it's a doozy all about ChatGPT. So this is part of the Open AI project. There's been a lot of media and a lot of talk about it. A couple of universities have now banned it from being used because it's so damn good. Oh, I've seen people write theses on this. I've written entire blogs. I actually used this to generate 365 different topics for social media posts for a couple of my clients over the Christmas break. It's very good, but you really want to know who you are first, because it is kind of picky and not always accurate. So let's take a look at ChatGPT. So ChatGPT at the moment is a free project. So I'm just going to start a new chat over here. And I'm going to type in, that's giving you some examples. So explaining quantum computing in simple terms, or it does have some limitations. Sometimes it's hilariously wrong. It will stick to its guns and you say that's wrong. It'll say, no, it's not. Here's why it's not wrong. And it'll be completely wrong. But it's like it's convinced that it's so right. It may occasionally produce harmful instructions or biased content. So this is the thing to use as a partner, not to use to generate your content. It also has pretty much no knowledge of world events after 2021, but I have actually added an extra plugin to my Chrome browser here, which allows me then to add a thing called, I'm going to turn it on now. Not that one, not that one, not that one. It is ChatGPT for Google. So if I go to Google and look for things, it'll generate words for me as well. But the main one I want to do, which is I need to go in and turn on a particular extension. So extensions. Looking for chat. This one, turn it on. What this one will do is adds current information to this. So if I refresh that now, it gives me an option to search on the web. So it allows me to search for results and then cites those results for me. So I'll give you an example. Without it, I'm going to say, what are, generate a witty and fun social media post on Instagram for women between age 25 and 39, talking about the hottest trend for autumn 2023. Let's see what it says. The autumn is here, and so is the hottest trend for 2023 from oversized sweatshirts and knee-high boots. This season is all about comfort and style. So ladies, let's embrace the cozy vibes and rock those autumn looks like the queens we are. Holy heck, this is just writing stuff for us. I don't really necessarily need to write things, because I think if we're all just posting the same stuff all the time, then we may actually find that everything online looks and sounds the same. So what I tend to try and do is go generate, let's just say, well, let's say 13 weeks. So 13 weeks is a quarter of a year. So we're going to say a post a week. So generate 13 social media post titles, ideas regarding fashion for plus size women, aimed at women over 35 years old who are not afraid to spend good money on quality clothing. Do not repeat results. Let's see what it does. Confidence is the new black. Show off your curves, the latest fashion size. So there's number one, don't let society dictate what you can and can't wear. Plus size clothing has come a long way. Number three, feeling fabulous has no size limit. Invest in quality pieces that make you feel confident and comfortable in your own skin. You can see what it's doing here. It's generating pretty much all those things. Now, I would take these as topics to start my own writing from, because remember, this is not necessarily producing these just for you. It's producing it for all sorts of people. So all around the world, it may be giving them all the same thing. So you'll find that everybody who's selling plus size fashion suddenly has exactly the same different 13 posts that are going to come up over the next 13 weeks. So these are very good because I was very, very specific about what I was asking for. It was then able to produce things which are very, very appropriate for what I was looking for. Right down to these last two that are coming up now. Don't let society dictate what you can and can't wear. Plus size clothing has come a long way and there are so many options to choose from. Feeling fabulous has no size limit. Invest in quality pieces that make you see what I did. I told it not to repeat. It's actually repeated that one. That 13th one is another one that was earlier on. So sometimes it does get it wrong and doesn't quite do it right. What I might want to do here instead though is say generate, let's just say we're going to write, I don't know, a blog post a month. 12 blog post titles regarding plus sized fashion. So I'm going to say, pretend you are an experienced web copywriter. Generate 12 blog post titles regarding plus size fashion. Use uncommon knowledge and do not repeat titles. Let's see what it does. So it's going to give me 12 blog post ideas, 5 must-have wardrobe essentials for plus-size women, the evolution of plus-size fashion from frumpy to fabulous. So it's giving us all the titles we need to know. This is what I think ChatGPT does great. It gives you titles that you can start off with. So then you've got the ideas of what to write for, rather than getting it to do the writing for you, because it can do the writing for you. It can go a lot further, but that's stuff I'll show you on Friday. That's, I don't want to spend too long on this one because it is a very new tool, only released on November 30. It's free for now, and pretty much everyone's getting on top of it. It's a very popular tool and it's currently running out a lot of. Now, if I wanted to add on my search on the web, I would go, what are the most asked questions in 2022 regarding plus sized fashion? Because remember, this thing cannot actually get any information from before 2021, from after 2021. So the information can be a little out of date. When I add this search on the web thing, it allows me to go into more recent information. So let's say for women, the most asked questions. So it's gone and found places to get that information from, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They've got one from this month. So it's okay, it appears the most asked questions were about current trends and colors, the growth and acceptance of the plus size apparel market, and a desire for more exclusive and fashionable options for plus size women. So I looked at those 4 different articles and went, okay, I'm going to look for things that trend with that. So you can see what the most asked for questions are. You used to be able to go to Google and just do that. So plus sized women's fashion, and you see the suggestions coming up, which usually go, well, Australia, New Zealand 2022, near me, trends spring 2022. You start to see what the most asked questions are, but this one gives you a lot more detail about what they will be. So then I'm also doing this too within the context of everything. So if I look at this and I go, okay, give me 5 more, it will look at that and go, here's, oh, it's just logged me out. But then sometimes it does these buggy things. I just did all this stuff and it said, oh, no, I'm decided I'm logging you out. So I need to refresh that and start all over again. So just make sure I'm in there and I can ask those questions again. So I don't want to labor too long on that point, because that is a tool that is really changing everyone's world at the moment. And it's so new that we're trying not to make people get too excited by using it to generate their content for them. We're using it more as a tool to help us to understand what we're going to generate. So I was letting you know before that I was going to teach you about how I do this in my format of doing it. So I will show you through that. So how I do it is I work off these 5 points. I work off what is my topic, what are my values, what is the type of post I'm going to do, what is my hub content that I'm going to point back to, and what is the post. So let's look at those one by one. The topic is all about having 1 to maybe 3 topics at most that you're going to post about. In my case, I only ever post, and if you follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook or even in Instagram, I only post about Instagram. I don't even post. I post my companies on there, but it's social media and personal brand are the only 2 things I ever talk about. There's so much information in there. I don't need to talk about other things. I used to talk about 15 different topics, and it was very hard for someone to work out what it is I actually stood for, what I did, and what I was an expert at, because I'm a little bit of an expert at a lot of things, but I'm a really deep expertise in these 2 topics. These are 2 topics where people pay me to work with them on those things. So that's what I post about. So that's my topic. So I've worked out my topics: social media, personal branding. Yours might be 3 of them, maybe 4. I try to make it as little as 2 if you can. 1 if you really got a really like an amazingly tight thing to talk about. I've got a client I work with, Melissa, who has a product of skincare called Yaya. It's YAYE, Yaya skincare, and all she talks about is skincare. That's all she ever talks about. All she ever posts about skincare and her products. So she's become very much an expert on that topic. My core values, once I worked them all out, were honesty, authenticity, vulnerability, effectiveness, and approachability. So those were basically what I want to make sure that all of my posts that I do have at least a combination of at least 2 of those in it. Then I look at the types of posts that I make. So this is I've got a whole other webinar about this that we can go through, and I will actually do this on again shortly, where we actually outline all this. But if you want to sort of skip to that, you can go to the free mini course on my website, danteandjames.com, where I've got the mini courses, and you select the one called 5 weeks, 5 types of posts, and that's where you can learn this exactly what this whole thing is and understand how it works and how you can do it. But it's based around these 5-6 questions that I ask myself. What can I teach? What have I noticed? How do I think differently? What tips can I deliver as a list? How did this happen? And that was then, this is now. So I'll just give a short explainer of each one. What can I teach is something I have expertise in that I'm able to teach someone. Easy. What have I noticed is I was walking down the street the other day and noticed this. Then tie that into some kind of lesson about the areas of expertise I have. Or it might have been, I was recently in a workshop with 13 other web designers, and I noticed there was a big focus on this. This is why I think it's something to watch out for. The next one is, how do I think different? This is where you can get a bit contrarian. So you can say, look, while everybody's saying that getting a lot of sunshine is good for your health, here's why I reckon it might be bad for your skin. So it's what you take a commonly accepted position that's related to what you do or what you sell, and then you say how you think differently about that. So you usually start it with, people are always saying blah. This is why I think that's wrong. Or it could be, whilst the professionals are telling us that we should be doing this, I think we should be doing this. So it's where you are going on a different track to what the commonly given wisdom is, not just to be a contrarian and just to be argumentative, but it's actually just to go, hey, this is what sets me apart. This is why you might want to choose me instead of someone else, because I think about things just from a slightly different angle. What tips you can deliver as a list. That could be tools, tips, any of those things. You deliver as a list of 3 to 10 different things. Sometimes I go, here's 21 blog ideas. Here's 3 reasons why I think ChatGPT is going to take over the world. Here's 4 reasons why I think Elon Musk is an idiot, all that kind of thing. Next is how this happened. So you start at the end and say, this happened. Here's how we got there. So it could be, my client just posted her first email newsletter after fretting about it for 3 years. Here's how we got her there. Step 1, we did this. Step 2, we did this. Step 3, we did this. Step 4, she executed. I'm so proud of her. So it's saying, here's a successful or an unsuccessful outcome, and here's how it happened. And with my values of vulnerability and authenticity, I've actually boxed myself into a corner, into having to make sure I share not just my successes, but my failures as well. And I find that when I share my failures, they're some of the most engaged with and read posts I ever have on social media. We look at how did this happen? That's the one we just did. Sorry. And the then and now is like, this is how it started, this is how it's going. So you might often see this on things like TikTok and in Reels, where someone posts their puppy when it was only a few months old, and then they post it as an old dog. Say, this is how it started, this is how it's going. It's cute, it's adorable. But in your case, it might be, this is how it started. I was at a market stall in the middle of nowhere. No one was buying my stuff. This is how it's going now. I've got 3 stores across 3 different parts of the city. And I just bought my new Rolls Royce or something like that. Don't be that performative about it, but maybe just give yourself a bit of room to show the change that's occurred in yourself. Or it could be, this is how it started. This is how we used to lose weight back in the 1950s with the weight bands jiggling our fat around. And this is how it's going. Now all we do is take this one little pill and it helps us to suppress our appetite for longer, or something like that. The idea is then to show a difference between how things were done to how you now do them, or a difference between how you did things and how you do them now. It's a really fun little thing to do, just a comparison, what was then and what is now. Then what I finally do after I've done that is I expand on it somewhere. So I provide a place for you to read more information. Do I do this every day? No. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Usually what I will do is point to my blog as an example. So I'll talk about a topic I've talked about in a blog, and then I'll say, for more information, visit here. Or it could be a podcast episode. So I go, I talked about this recently in this podcast. Here's the link. Or it could be one of my recorded YouTube videos here from Business Station, where I go, actually I did a whole 1-hour class on this. If you want to learn more about it, click on this link. It could be some research I've done. I do research every month. I do research surveys of people I know, people I don't know. I give people free vouchers and all that sort of thing as a thank you for filling out surveys. So I've got a big group of about 1,000 people that I send out these emails to once a month, and they answer questions for me. So that research could be valuable. That's something I will draw back to every so often. External articles that you found that people have written something really good, that may be where, hey, here's an idea I've just got, and here's what someone quite famous has to say about it. And then, like I've done today, point it back to my mini courses, because I have a few of those to work with as well. So there's tons of stuff you can do in there to learn a little bit more about stuff. This is this is where you can just point out to those big pieces of work you've already done and use them again and again and again. And then finally, what I do is put in a line about the post. So sometimes I'll put a brief line about it and say, this is what I'm writing about. This is the topic. Or I'll put the whole post copied and pasted ready to go if I've got something really off the top of my head straight away. That way I've done it ahead of time and it's not so bad. Now I'll show you what that looks like in my live one. So my live one here is my hub and spoke model. So in here, I know it looks very confusing. I'll try and make it a little bit bigger for you to read on your screens, but come on, make it bigger. You can do it. Come on, plus. There you go. It should be a bit easier to read now. So if we're up to this week, so Monday, the 9th of January, which is today, I had a post about being honest and effective. It's in the then and now format and using Facebook for what it's meant for. So that's what I was going to write about. So I'm not pointing back to any hub content, like not to a blog, not to a newsletter or anything like that. So let's pop into LinkedIn and see what that actual post was. So go to LinkedIn, go to my profile, and go into my most recent stuff. So I actually did it in that format, how it started and how it's going. So how it started, I can reach my target on Facebook for just $1 a day. How it's going, wait, even $500 a month isn't enough anymore. So that's where I started with that, how it started, how it's going, to compare now to what things might have used to have been in the past. So that's it just shows you I follow that religiously every time. So tomorrow's post is about creating a personal brand statement in a step-by-step guide. I've already written it. I've already marked it off my little check boxes here, and then I move on. So I'm being authentic and honest in that one. And it points tomorrow to a blog post that I've already got on my website. So I've got this planned out right until the end of the year. So I know that every day so let's go to October 12, I'm posting about social media in a teaching way. I don't have hub content for it. I don't know quite what I'm going to post in there, but what I do know is during the week, I've got things I already know what I'm writing. On Monday, I'm writing about creating a personal brand through ebooks. On Tuesday, I'm writing about what businesses on social media can learn from television. I'm writing about a client on Friday. And on Sunday, my personal branding for graphic designers is going to be my post that I'm going to give a very personal perspective on. So I spend a bit of time over the holiday period putting all that together so that I don't have any surprises this year. It's very, very comforting when you go in here and you know what you're going to post, you know what's coming up, you know what you've got to do, rather than rushing around for it all. So that's my plan. You can also follow the plan that I was bringing up in the in fact, I would probably not follow my plan to begin with, because the problem with that is that I haven't really written my plan out for everyone to use. It's very appropriate for me to use, but not necessarily for everybody else. Whereas the plan I did for the rest of this webinar was very much aimed at just about anyone can do that. So to wrap up, know what the objective of your writing is. What do you want to gain out of the end of this? Know the people who you're writing for. Know where they are at the journey between not being aware of you at all and then wanting to buy from you, or maybe they've already bought from you, they're becoming your fans. And then generate ideas with tools. Use these tools to generate some ideas, because you don't have to come up with everything yourself. It's not absolutely necessary for you to know everything up front. Use the tools to give you the ideas of what you're going to do, and then write down those ideas, rather than leaving it all to one day where we have to generate the ideas, figure out the voice, figure out the tone, figure out the stage of the customer journey, and then write the post as well. Oh, it's just exhausting. Just plan it out first. Spend an afternoon just writing down this month's different blog, the different topics you want to write about. Then tomorrow, just write down the month's different themes, or the different values you're going to put into those posts. What it'll do, it makes you a lot better writer, number one. Number two, it makes you a lot more empathetic. People will naturally want to read what you're writing because it makes sense to them. It's real. It's not just, a robot generating content every day. Number three, what it'll do, it'll set you apart from your competition. So you won't be producing the same stuff that they're producing. So it makes for a lot more interesting content. And I think it also makes it a lot easier for you to be able to be a far better writer in general. So you're ready to learn more about this. If you've still got some time with the digital solutions program, if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you get 3 hours of one-to-one coaching, 4 or more. You can take as many hours you like on the workshops and webinars. As long as you've got an ABN, it's only $44. You get access to all that. So what I would suggest you do is get onto digital solutions at businessstation.com.au. Sorry, digitalsolutions.businessstation.com.au. I know there's a lot of letters in there, but they all do make sense. digitalsolutions.businessstation.com.au. If anything comes up from this particular session you'd like to ask from, and Debbie's just asked a question there, want to know, how do you recommend posting every day? How do you balance overwhelming people with your posts? You won't overwhelm people with your posts, because barely anyone's going to see them anyway. So especially on Facebook and Instagram, you're not going to get much of a percentage of people are going to see your stuff. So this idea of overwhelming people with your posts is they're not going to see them, except maybe in a Facebook group where they might be more likely to see it. But if you overwhelm people, I probably wouldn't be posting more than a couple of times a week in a group. On Facebook page, on Instagram profile, on LinkedIn, just do it, just post. I don't think you'll know exactly what the responses will be until you try it. For everyone, it's different. So have a crack at it. Post as often as you want, and if people are saying, "Oh, it's too much," which they won't, or if you notice that your reactions and engagement drop off, well, then pull it back to maybe 2-3 times a week. And if they're not responding enough, just add a little bit more. I post every day, sometimes twice a day. No one says anything. Some of them like it, some of them don't. My newsletter gets around about 30% of open rate. That's fine. It seems to be reaching the people that it needs to reach, and that's the most important thing. Not everyone's going to be reached, but it's very important to make sure that those who do see it are the people who you really want to see it, your most ideal customers. If you want to ask any questions after this, please do through my email address, dante@businessstation.com.au. LinkedIn is awesome. I'm always in there. Facebook, I'm always in there. Twitter, I'm pretty much in there all the time now too. So anytime you want to reach out, please do that. I'm more than happy to answer any questions at all. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with me this afternoon. It's always fun getting to hang out with people and teach them stuff, because I know that sometimes it can be a little bit, if you're a sole trader in a business, and especially if you're working from home, it's nice to have some adult company sometimes, because sometimes it feels like just you and the 4 walls are talking to you. If those 4 walls are talking back, then you've got a real problem on your hands. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon and week. And it's all great to be back here in 2023. Have a great day.